My name is Juliet Odhiambo. I just realized that I never introduced myself. I tend to forget to introduce myself. And in this channel, it's just about Bible study and journaling and just spending time with God with no restrictions. Mostly, though, it's Bible study and journaling. So we've been doing a study on the book of Ezra, Nehemiah, and in the last video, we talked about the prophecy that Zechariah had and the prophecy that Haggai had. And so now we paused on chapter 5 so that we could do that, because the first sentence of chapter 5 tells us that these two prophets came and prophesied. So we were just trying to see, what did they prophesy, what did they say? And so now we are just getting straight into Ezra chapter 5, and I will start by reading the text, and I'm reading the English Standard Version. So let's go. Now the prophets Haggai and Zechariah the son of Iddo prophesied to the Jews who were in Judah and Jerusalem in the name of the God of Israel, who was over them. Then Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel and Jeshua the son of Jozadak arose and began to rebuild the house of God that is in Jerusalem, and the prophets of God were with them, supporting them. At the same time, Tattenai, the governor of the province beyond the river, and Shetha-Bosnai and their associates came to them and spoke to them thus: Who gave you a decree to build this house and to finish this structure? They also asked them this: What are the names of the men who are building this building? But the eye of their God was on the elders of the Jews, and they did not stop them until the report should reach Darius, and then an answer be returned by letter concerning it. This is a copy of the letter that Tattenai, the governor of the province beyond the river, and Shetha-Bosnai and their associates, the governors who were in the province beyond the river, sent to Darius the king. They sent him a report in which was written as follows: To Darius the king, all peace. Be it known to the king that we went to the province of Judah, to the house of the great God. It is being built with huge stones, and timber is laid in the walls. This work goes on diligently and prospers in their hands. Then we asked those elders and spoke to them thus: Who gave you a decree to build this house and to finish this structure? We also asked their names, and for your information that we might write down the names of their leaders. And this was their reply to us: We are the servants of the God of heaven and earth, and we are rebuilding the house that was built many years ago, which a great king of Israel built and finished. But because our fathers had angered the God of heaven, he gave them into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon the Chaldean, who destroyed this house and carried away the people of Babylonia. However, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Babylon, Cyrus the king made a decree that this house of God should be rebuilt, and the gold and silver vessels of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple that was in Jerusalem and brought into the temple of Babylon, these Cyrus the king took out of the temple of Babylon, and they were delivered to one whose name was Sheshbazzar, whom he had made governor. And he said to him, Take these vessels, go and put them in the temple that is in Jerusalem, and let the house of God be rebuilt on its site. Then this Sheshbazzar came and laid the foundations of the house of God that is in Jerusalem, and from that time until now it has been in building, and it is not yet finished. Therefore, if it seems good to the king, let such be made in the royal archives there in Babylon, to see whether a decree was issued by Cyrus the king for the rebuilding of this house of God in Jerusalem, and let the king send us his pleasure in this matter. Yeah, so the story is continuing, and so the first thing we're going to do, as always, is to get the facts of the story by answering the 5 W's and 1 H of the text, getting the facts of the story. Who is talking? What is the context? What is going on in the story? So at this point, you might want to pause the video and do that, and then come back and let's continue this study. All right, so in between chapter 4 and 5, we see that there was some sort of lag. Something happened in chapter 4 when they faced opposition, and then it seems the construction stopped. So if you watch through the videos on the prophets the messages of the prophets, the life of the returnees had gone on. They had gotten new things to do, building their own houses and all that. And so the prophets were warning them and encouraging them to continue the rebuilding. So here they've started rebuilding after the prophecy, and then yet another group of people comes to question what they're doing. And so the Tetanai, the governor, Shethar Bosnia, they come up to question the construction, but they don't stop it. Good, because the eye of the God of Jews was on them. So they decide they're going to send this letter, and then they're going to come back after the king responds. And so the whole chapter is basically the contents of this letter. We've talked about the situation that caused the letter to be written, and then the rest of the chapter is really just breaking down the contents of the letter. Yeah, so that's the what do we see, what is the observation, and what is the context of the letter. So the main characters here are the opposition, Tatanai, Shethar Bosnia, and then of course we have the leaders of the Jews, and we have the prophets who give the prophecy. The next bit, we are going to be looking at any questions that I rose up for me as I did the study, and also looking at the character of God that I can see that comes out of this chapter 5 of Ezra. So if you're studying with me, then you can also just take a pause at this point and look, like, is there anything that you want clarity on? Is there anything that you would want to search and research some more about? Anything that is not clear, then write that, and also look for a character of God, because I generally believe that if you don't see God in the text that you're reading, then there's something missing, because the whole Bible is an avenue into the nature, the heart, and the mind of God, and his character, his attributes. And so as part of Bible study, we ought to be looking for God. We ought to be looking for God in the text. So look for God and see if there are any questions that you want to clarify, and then come back, and then we will finish this bit. So for me, the question that rose up was, I'm trying to understand exactly how the governorship worked, because in chapter 1 is the first time we see Sheshbazzar being mentioned. Sheshbazzar is it's not a Hebrew name, and we also, I think it was also in chapter 1 that we're trying to figure out, who is this Sheshbazzar? Is he the same person as Zerubbabel? A question that I'm not yet sure of, because some texts show us as if it's the same person, and then other texts differentiate them. And so in chapter 1, we see Sheshbazzar is the one who was given the gold and silver vessels from the temple. And then also now in chapter 5, we are seeing that there are other governors that are coming to question them. So I'm trying to answer, okay, so in chapter 1, they said Sheshbazzar was the governor, hence he was given the staff. And then in chapter 5, we are seeing new governors, Tatanai and all that, who are coming up, who are not governors, it seems, of the Jews, right? They are governors of the province beyond the river. See, clearly, even as I talk, I'm still trying to figure out who, if the governors beyond the river, and then there's if there's some sort of hierarchy such that these governors can still come to the Jews and question what they're doing. Because now there was the governor of the Jews, who I thought Zerubbabel is also a governor of the Jews, who we also think is Sheshbazzar. My problems with this Bible study. So this is the clarity like I want. I want to get the hierarchical, if I can understand if there's some sort of hierarchy such that these people could come and question them, and also understand whether Sheshbazzar and Zerubbabel were one and the same person. These are questions that I'm still holding in my head, and trying to see where I can get the answers from. And yeah, that will make this text clearer. So those are the questions for me. And then the character of God, I love this. I love this because I think the last time I saw it was when when we were talking in Genesis, where anyway, so the character of God I'm seeing is in chapter 5 verse 5, when it says the eye of God was on the elders of the Jews. This kind of shows me that God is watchful, that God watches over his word, watches over his people to perform it. And it says because the eye of God was on them, then the people, Tattenai and Shetha-Bosnia, could not stop them. They decided not to stop them until they seek clarity from the king and then come back with a response. You know, otherwise they would have really frustrated them. But because God was watching over this work, and so he enabled them not to be stopped. He gave them favor in their eyes. And this is encouraging. It's encouraging for me. Like anytime I see that word, that aspect of God where he watches over, it's an encouragement in a tough situation. I was trying to remember the last time when I read that. It was in Genesis, and it was about Abraham's concubine servant who got the second son. The first son, who Abraham tried to get the first son, and she went into the wilderness. But the Bible says that God was watching over. God sees, the God who sees was watching over her, and so she was able to kind of be restored. I need to clarify by that. That was the general context of that story. And so when I saw this, I was like, yes, God is watching over whatever thing you're doing. If it is of him that he has directed you to do, then he's watching over it, and he will make sure that you have favor to perform it. So in finishing up this study, in the blank canvas, I like to call that page the blank canvas of the Alone with God journal, I decided to just break down the contents of the letter that the governor sent to Darius, and to just kind of understand, because that's the whole context. That's the whole context of chapter 5. So we have the opposition, and then they write a letter, and the letter takes a majority of the chapter. So I just kind of broke it down. So when they came to the Jews, they asked them, who gave you the decree to build this, and who are you? Who are the leaders who are leading this? And when they did that, the Israelites, the returnees, must have given them quite a long history of how they came to the point where they are, because even in the letter that they write to Darius, it's so, I think they were just trying to summarize everything that they were told, because they started from the first house, that there was a great king who built this house, and I guess they're talking about King Solomon, who built the house, and then what happened? The fathers angered God, and then because of that, God allowed them to be taken into captive by King Nebuchadnezzar into Babylon. And then after, in the first year of King Cyrus, he gave a decree to rebuild the house. And after giving that decree, he took even the gold and the silver vessels that Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the house of God, and he returned them to Sheshbazzar, who was then the governor. Trying to figure out if it was the governor of the Jews or the governor of the province beyond the river. And then Sheshbazzar came, and we laid the foundation. And you see, because of that phrase, that Sheshbazzar came and laid the foundation. 3 and 4, we see that Zerubbabel is the one who laid the foundation. And this is part of what is causing the confusion on whether Sheshbazzar and Zerubbabel are one and the same person. And so they close the letter by asking the king to do a search, and if they can find this decree in the archives, and then tell us what to do. And that's it. So that's how the story is continuing. Next video, we're going to be looking at Ezra chapter 6 and see how the story goes on from there. So see you then.